Good morning, everyone. I want to thank everyone for coming in this morning. I know we've got several of you that might be here from Indianapolis and the Indianapolis area. Others have traveled hours to get here and maybe came in last night or had a very early morning this morning. So my thanks to you for joining us today. I could not be more excited about the material that we have to show you, both through the speakers and the breakouts today. My expectation is that when you depart today, that we will all feel energized about, number one, the software that we have, the potential, the direction it's going, the enhancements, and also some things that are coming that are maybe either on the way very soon or not quite here yet, but really have the opportunity to change and enhance the experience that we provide both to our HR partners that are in the room and also to employees themselves. So I want to set a really high bar for what to expect today, because I think we're going to meet that and then some. Turning the clock back a little bit, it's interesting to me. I believe this is our 6th user meeting, and starting at the Don Schumacher Racing in Brownsburg, and the breakout rooms that we have here today would be by far larger than what we would need for the entire guests at those first meetings. So it's a super point of pride for me just to be able to put on an event like this, be able to have the support of our sponsors, and we absolutely positively would not be here in the room today if it wasn't for each of you that are sitting down. This really isn't about us, it's about you. And so I'm super excited to show some of the enhancements that we have and kind of what that might mean for you in the weeks, months, and years ahead. So I also have to give a thank you to my own team as well. Steele's come so far over the last 7 years since we embarked down this path of helping to solve ACA reporting to you and helping to solve data feeds and online enrollment and so forth. And the first time that I walked into this venue and saw it was this morning, and just the Steele team just did an awesome, amazing job getting everything ready. And I want to say thank you to our own team as well. So what I have on the agenda for today is organizational updates. So what I want to do is take us through some objectives. Just a high-level reminder. Sometimes we get so focused in our day-to-day that we see what's right in front of our own nose, and we think about the employee that we're hiring this week, or the life event that someone had, or an issue with our Cobra feed, or whatever the case may be. So the first thing that I want to do is take one step back or 2 steps back and look at the broader context of what we're trying to accomplish here, and just kind of share that first, and then we can dive down deeper into how that's shaping some of the current Steele priorities. So we're then going to talk about Steele today, some of the things, numbers and demographics and things that are organizational updates about just where Steele is going and kind of who we are and what our team looks like today. For many in the room, we may not have had a chance to chat about organizationally what the headlines are for the last year. So we're going to do a year in headlines as well and walk through just what some of the major milestones were from the last 12 months. And as we look towards setting future milestones, we're also going to look at what are the current priorities. So what are the things that we're working on inside of Steele, and what is that going to mean for you in the year ahead? Then we've got just some brief remarks on what I see as the future looking like in the broader HR and benefit environment, and what does being a benefit administrator or an HR department look like in the future? And then lastly, with that vision in mind, where is Steele going, and what are we going to do to support you into the days ahead? Sound good? All right, let's do it. So starting off, where is Mike Steele? Is my dad in the room somewhere? Yeah. So hats off to Mike Steele in the back, who is the Steele founder back in 2000. Steele's in our 22nd year in business this year. Definitely would not be here if it wasn't for Mike, for Dad. And, an interesting thing, I'm sure you guys have gone through this in your own organizations, is one of the most important thing an organization can do is have a broader purpose. And so it's really interesting to me to look back in 2000 at what our broader purpose was, and quoted in numerous areas as just being take care of the customer, customer comes first kind of mentality. And that really has permeated 22 years through Steele. And we call it something different now. We call it employee prosperity and wellness, wellness and prosperity of the workforce. But if you think about it, it's really kind of the same thing. For 22 years, Steele has been thinking about the employee and how we can serve the employee. And that's kind of been although things have changed in terms of how we deliver that exactly, that's kind of been our guiding light for what we do. So with that, as we look at kind of putting a marketing twist on that to help your organizations and how can we help you as professionals, as we deliver the Steele solutions, something that I'm focused on internally is what can we do at Steele to help your employees fall in love with your brand at work? That's kind of like the ultimate marker of Steele is doing and fulfilling that mission is when we can not take the credit for that success of doing something great for the employee, but pass that through and let that success be yours to own. And when we can help you truly shine for your own organizations, we're really fulfilling our mission in an even better way. And as we think about where we want to go, we also want to make communication easier through automation. Life in 2022 looks very different than life in 2002. Google was just founded in 1998. It wasn't that long ago. When we did our first medical insurance enrollment, where everything, medical, dental, vision, life, disability, worksite, et cetera, was all on a platform. It was in 2008 for Westview Schools up in Shipshewana, Indiana, for their 300 employees. And Westview did not have Wi-Fi in their buildings yet, so we literally did that on a laptop and trucked that laptop around from employee to employee to make it electronic. So how far have we come from then to where employees are willingly spending $1,000 on a device that they have in their own pocket that they unlock 300 times a day and look at, and we have the ability to take what you do and use that device to help employees fall in love with your brand and achieve their benefits objectives with their own device that they carry around in their pocket every day. So we want to make communication easier through automation, so that the Westview schools, instead of trucking that computer around from person to 300 people, how can we help Hope Bridge solve that for their 5,000 people that are across the country? And additionally, in the early days, I would actually carry around pieces of paper, and we'd have one piece of paper for Anthem, and one piece of paper for Delta Dental, and one piece of paper for VSP, and one piece of paper for Aflac. And we think about all of the ways that we can consolidate and make that more efficient. Some of those you're already seeing, and some of them you don't know about. What I'm personally excited about is the ones that I know are about to shape and transform what we're doing that maybe aren't even on your radar yet. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So this was a vision that I had together with a former Solarix employee, Steve Olivas, who spoke a few years past, if some of you were at Delara with us, about transforming the way organizations communicate with their own employees. Sure, that's great if our team members, our benefit counselors, our enrollers, our messages originate from our system and talk to your people, but how much more powerful is it if you can do that in your own voice? And so I'm going to talk a little bit through this today about how the Steele package is designed to work together when you're subscribed to all of our services. Certainly that's right for some. There's a financial impact of that. You got to weigh that at your own organizations. I do get that. But what the Steele package in its totality is designed to do is to help you communicate to your own employees in your own voice to make for a more powerful message for your organization. And then lastly, make it easier to be a high-performing HR professional. Sometimes we're really succeeding in that, and I know there are a number of you in the rooms that you would generously give us credit for what we have done to make your jobs easier, maybe with ACA reporting or communications or online enrollment. Other times, there might be something that's more that we can do, and I'll tell you, let us know that too, because we want to hear the good from you, we want to hear the bad, because when we're succeeding in our job, we're helping you to be a better HR or benefits professional, and that's our aim and goal to do, and we set that bar very high for ourselves. with the ultimate goal of reducing turnover with the power of experience. And this is something that, as we go back to the CFOs who aren't in the room and say, how do we justify, some of the cost items or the different things surrounding this? Really, there is ROI that ties back to these programs, and it's as it relates to increases in productivity, decreases in turnover, and so forth. Because when the package works as it's designed, it makes you more powerful as an organization. Steele today, a couple of highlights. I'm not necessarily going to read all of these off. I'll let you take a look at them. When I started, I was employee number 3. Christine Tollison, who's in the room, started just months after me and has been here for 17 years or whatnot. But we have been a growing team, through time, up to 31 employees today. That does not count our benefit counselor enrollment teams. That accounts for maybe another 50 to 75 people in the fall as well. So growing team, supporting 90,000 employees directly at about 135 different employers, licensed in 49 states and working in about 40 states, with about 104% growth at Steele since 2018, which is good enough to put us on the Inc. 5000 for one of the fastest growing companies in America. Partly that has been driven by innovation over time. For example, we were one of the first companies that offered debit cards for flexible spending accounts. That happened in the early 2000s. We had competitors at that time who would tell their customers that what we were doing was illegal because that was really all you could do to battle that convenience, right? So we were amongst the first at that. First to offer products, first to offer engagement, amongst the Midwest leaders for distribution. It's really been a cool growth story. It's really your story as much as ours. There are people in the room that trusted us when it was really nothing more than a relationship because we didn't have the experience yet, and you helped us build that experience. And so we owe, for the competency that we have as an organization today, we definitely owe a big thank you to you for that because you helped us get to where we are. Headlines since last summer: acquired independent Steele software license. So quick share of hands, how many people know when I say independent license versus carrier license, how many of you know what I'm talking about? Okay, so we have a few hands. How many on your Steele site have an insurance company's logo? How many have an insurance company's site or logo on your site, and ideally you wish you didn't? Okay. That's available to you now. Steele bought a Celerix license last year. There's a marginal cost to changing that over. There's also some system migration that needs to happen for that. However, if you have a carrier logo on your enrollment site today and you would like to get it off, let us know because we can do that. I mentioned Dad in the back of the room. He's with us as a guest today, formally retired as of December 31st last year. So very exciting, Mark. Our company theme this year is legacy. We built this a certain way, and we're building it to kind of endure and honor Dad as time goes on. We did renovate our headquarters as well. Many of you have had COVID-related adaptions, I'm sure, in your own workforces. We have moved to a hybrid model at Steele where we've got a kind of a co-work space for our team members on the west side of Indianapolis. So we're invested in Indianapolis, and we expect to be in Indianapolis for a very long time. Nationally, the engagement product that has texting and automations and so forth, Steele's become the number one reseller, number one distributor of that program in the entire country. I mentioned top 1% of growing companies nationally. So I'm transitioning here. Anybody who's heard of the book Atomic Habits by James Clear? Few hands. So I'll tell you, a very powerful book if you want to change something in your life, whatever that might be, your fitness, your nutrition, work habits, whatever it may be. Atomic Habits by James Clear. And so one of the quotes that I like from this book is, we do not rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. So what that means for us at Steele is we may have an ambition of being the best possible service provider for benefits related services that in the country. We may have that ambition. But what determines whether we can get there or not is not how much we want it, but rather what systems in place we have to make that possible. And so that's something that we're working on as an organization, gets into our current priorities. Our first priority is improving the sites. If you think, I'm not gonna ask for a show of hands on this one, I'm not gonna put you on the spot. If you think your site is a little bit ugly today, tell your customer success manager, because there are so many things that we can do. You know, if you want it to look a little different, improving the sites is a big function, and there's a lot that we can do. Formalizing the Steele way. So we've talked about internally, how do we deliver a benefits experience from a technology side and from a customer experience side, and can we write those things down so that every company, regardless of geography, size, whatever the case might be, gets the same Steele experience. We're working on formalizing that. We're also working on building the industry's best team. You know, by my count, something like 6 of our current employees came from a benefits professional background out of our 30 people. That's something that's going to be a trend that we expect to continue. As we build our team, we want to be, it's attitude-based, it's behavior-based, it's experience-based, it's knowledge-based, and so we're working hard on that. Communicating red lines. So last year we put a program in place to try to better protect our internal team members from the tight timelines of open enrollment. Some of you can probably relate to this, where you get rates and you get your renewals and you make your renewal decisions on a really tight timeline, and then that site needs to be ready in no time. And what we're trying to do at Steele is to communicate to you ahead of time on what kind of lead time we need. And there's the lead time we want, and then there's the lead time we need, right? So we'll tell you about the lead time we want, as we always have, but we also want to be more steadfast in the lead time we need too, so that we can make sure we get the sites set up, that we allow adequate time for testing, and if we can do it, I want to try to avoid putting our case builders in situations where they're working 80 hours, including 16-hour days on Sunday to get a case live on Monday. Trying to avoid those kinds of situations and put everybody in a more fair situation. Next, positioning the full range of solutions. I mentioned that kind of off the top. Is, in my view, the Steele experience is not complete without all aspects of the Steele services. So yes, the benefits technology support, but also what are we doing for your new hires? What benefits do they have that they can enroll in? Do we have call center and self-service both available for open enrollment? Do we have what I call activity-based communication set up? So do we have Engage set up where we've got automated campaigns so that when you hire people, they get consistent communications where you don't even have to do it, it just happens automatically? Do we have texting set up? Are you meeting employees on that device they have in their pocket that they unlock 300 times a day? If you have important messages for them, are you putting the message where they're actually going to read it? The ACA reporting, and then the full benefit mix. Other priorities, migrations to Steele license, I mentioned. Item 2, making Engage better. That's all about us sharpening the sword on our side. So it's one thing to have the tool, it's another thing for the tool to do the most that it can for you. I'll freely admit on the texting, Engage, activity-based communication side, we're still early in that journey in terms of how awesome that experience can be for our customers. So we're working internally on making that better. For the private sector friends in the room, you may know about changes to ERISA law with regard to broker fees and things and disclosures and so forth that has happened in the last year. In preparation for that and minimum loss ratios and a bunch of technical reasons, we're preparing for more transparent pricing where we can disclose this is exactly what the fee costs and where the sources of our income comes from. But with that doesn't necessarily mean charging more. We still want to go to our carrier partners and ask and be successful in asking them for money so that we don't have to ask you to pony up, priority of ours. And then lastly, this has been a big sticking point for me enough to where I put it on this slide as a Steele priority. One of my kind of pet peeves is when we can do something but we just don't achieve it. There are particular orders of benefit plans that if the benefits are presented at a particular order, it's a more effective experience for the employee. And so I want to make sure that every case that Steele has benefits in the right order. And so that's something that your customer success managers will be talking to you about as we get into open enrollment this year, of just reviewing your order. We have a suggested order. For different reasons, customers of ours might prefer a different order than we suggest, and that's fine. No big deal at all on that. It's your site, not ours. But I want to do more about just making those small effort, high impact changes. We're all about the small effort, high impact changes. From a future perspective, it's kind of crazy to think about all of the things that you touch in HR. Who in the room has spent a fair amount of time thinking about leave management in the last couple of years? It's a huge topic, right? But you just think about like leave management, retirement providers, who you're using for your HSA, or using somebody different for your FSA, different insurance providers you have. Many of you in the room have bargaining contracts, multiple eligibility groups. You're working with brokers, advisors. You've got the payroll side of your business. That's before we even get to the care providers. Like, we talk about all this administrative stuff, and at the end of the day, it's about providing a benefit to the employee. You know what I mean? So there's a whole side of that we on our side don't see as much, and so maybe sometimes we're guilty of maybe not being empathetic enough to what you have going on in the real world in that regard. But there are so many things, and they all touch each other. And so one of the things that I think is going to be a trend over as we look forward the next 5 to 10 years, 2 to 10 years, is how can we have breakdowns in the data to where more people have access to the data that they need to make this easier and more seamless. Example. Don't get too excited about this, because this is so early stages, don't have anything in the works yet, but as an example, Voya is an NPERS provider for the state of Indiana, that FSA and HSA accounts as well. What if we could bring FSA and HSA accounts balances into the Steele system, and also bring retirement accounts into the Steele system? And what if we could get a decision support experience embedded in your system, to where when employees go through our system, all the information lives there. We can look at the employee's optimized scenario based on their actual medical spend and recommend how much money should they be putting in their 401k or 403b. How much money should they put in their HSA? Which health plan should they pick? If they have gaps in their health plans, which voluntary products might be good gap fillers for that could be a good part of their financial plan. These are things like connecting these data points together so that we can break those barriers down and ultimately provide a better experience back to the employee, is something that we're working on. So a big part of being able to work on that is having the right software. We feel we have that with Celerix and BenSelect. Currently about 19,000 companies in America and 9 million employees enrolling on this platform across the country. So Ruthie, I imagine later will touch on something called LDEX, which has to do with data integration standards and how we move data around. So Steele is going to be an early adopter of those things as well. What can we do to provide better data to your carrier partners and exchange that more real time in both directions? And the payroll connectivity piece. What can we do to work with our payroll connectivity partners to minimize or eliminate duplicate entry and make data move back and forth more seamlessly? I'm sure some of you in the room have Keystone and Boyce as an example, Computrol. I was actually in Daleville last week meeting with Jason Harrington, their new CEO, and saying, is there a way we can create API connectivity and move data between our systems back and forth in real time? Those are things that we are engaged in those conversations. Decision support. Quick share of hands. When I say the words decision support, how many people know what I mean? Okay, so we've got a few. This is one of the breakouts today. Shelby George is in from Rochester, New York, to talk about it. What we mean by decision support is, can we ask the employee to provide some data about how they plan to use their health plan and make some personalized recommendations for that. So we're evaluating at Steele a decision support Perky this year. It's already under API with Celerix, so if for those of you that do participate in this, it will be embedded in your enrollment site. When employees go through this recommendation engine, it will also auto-populate into their benefit elections to make the employee experience more seamless. So Shelby George will be talking about that in her breakout today. And what I'll say about that is it's early. So it's good to, if you're interested in doing that, definitely learn more about it. From the Steele side, we're looking for 3 to 5 companies to participate in that. We're not looking for 6. Just because we want to see how that goes. We want to evaluate that over a course of a year. So Shelby's going to be talking about that in her breakout. For the 3 to 5 companies that do participate in that this year, we're going to provide that to you at no cost. So if you're interested, check out Shelby later. In summary, focused on helping employees make the best choices they can and being confident and secure in their choices. Providing the safety and security for HR to be compliant. There was not too long ago, there was a recent case where an employee didn't keep good record of their self-administered data, as an example, turned into a liability item for the employer. You know, how many of you have self-bills or summary bills? You know, it's so providing you the tools that you need for safety and security to make sure that you're compliant both with things like ACA, but also with just things like general record keeping. And then lastly, transmitting the clean and complete and timely data to the providers is something that's a major focus on ours. If we were to look at, from Steele, as we think about like what we call our SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, if we look at one of the things that's on our radar that we need to improve on, it is over the long haul, we need to improve integration and just making data move more seamlessly from place to place. So if it's on your mind, I promise you it's on ours too. And I do have about 4 minutes before I'm going to introduce Jen. So if if we do have a few questions, I'll take them. Yeah. So Heather's question, that's all right, I'll just repeat it. Heather's question is, how is the decision support different from the current decision support that's embedded in Celerix for the medical? So we have a few customers that are already using Celerix decision support. It helps employees pick a medical plan. What is different about the new decision support is that number one, it will take into account actual dollar amounts for prescription spends and things like that to be just a little more precise and fine-tuned in the recommendation. Also, number two, it'll go beyond the medical and will recommend other programs they may be interested in as kind of a more holistic package. Dental, as an example. It'll also ask questions like, do you have any upcoming medical care this year? And if you tell the system that you're going to have a hip replacement this year, it'll give you a finer tuned recommendation.